Good morning, everybody. Let us start with the prayers. With the Guru Mantra, we'll chant it together. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Then next mantra, teacher student mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Then we will do the Mahamrityunjaya mantra 3 times for the well-being of everyone who is in suffering. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mutyor Mukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mutyor Mukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyamamrutat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hello everyone. I hope you are enjoying this Sanskrit course, and today we will get into the grammar. So just a little bit of an overview, and overview basically related to what we covered so far. So we covered basically the origin and history of Sanskrit, tradition of grammar, which is considered very elaborate and very sacred, alphabet and script. I would like to again tell you that these are the two different things. Sanskrit being a completely phonetic language, it can actually have multiple scripts, and there are multiple scripts. Most common is called Devanagari. Then what we are using for this class as the default, which is based upon the Roman characters, is IAST, and the one which is used for typing on the computer, which is having only the keyboard characters, that's called itrans. So we discussed that. We also saw how to type Sanskrit on computer. I also discussed that Sanskrit has some amazing qualities. One is free word order. You can choose the words in a sentence pretty much in any order you want, and the meaning will not change. There is a default word order which I'll talk later. But generally, if you change the word order, the meaning of the sentence does not change, and we see that how that happens actually. Because of that, it actually gives tremendous flexibility to poets. Imagine the same sentence you can say in hundreds or thousands of ways. Because of that, what has happened is that all literature is actually in the metric format. That means in the poetry. And we know from our own experience, those who are exposed, like Mahabharata, Ramayana, Bhagavad Gita being a part of Mahabharata, they are all in poetry. The language has been preserved in its form from very ancient times. Part of the reason is that Panini codified the rules of grammar, and people have been following those rules of grammar ever since. And therefore, there has not been any change in the language naturally evolves. Like in English, if you look at 500 years ago English versus today, it would look quite different, but not so in Sanskrit. Sanskrit, even if you read Mahabharata, which is supposedly 5,000 years ago, if you read Sanskrit today, you should be able to understand what is in Mahabharata. The grammar of Sanskrit, particularly Panini grammar, Panini has been the most celebrated grammarian. So celebrated actually that all the grammars prior to him are lost to us. Panini's grammar was so perfect that people did not care to preserve grammar system of older grammarians. The only reason we know that those grammars existed is Panini himself refers to those grammarians as a way of acknowledgement. So he mentions 10 grammarians and their systems of grammar. But as of today, primarily Panini system is what exists and is what is followed by everybody who studies Sanskrit, and we would be following the similar system, same thing. That grammar system is actually very much based upon the computer logic. So think of it, I told you yesterday, all the Sanskrit words are derived from this list of dhatu kosha, 2000 root words. And out of 2000, probably I would say 30% or maximum 40% are responsible for vast majority of Sanskrit words. Now you take this list, and he has defined these 4,000 rules. You apply those operations. It's like rules means formula. It's in Sanskrit, it's called sutra. You apply them in a certain order, and depending upon if then else conditions and other things, and you come up with these millions and millions of words which are used in Sanskrit. So that is essentially Panini grammar, and many people consider him, because of that reason, the father of computer science. And that was done more than 2,500 years ago. So now we want to actually get into the actual grammar concepts. So if you know in English, when you study grammar, a few things are important. Like in English, the order of the words in a sentence, that is very important. And that's a part of the grammar, that how do you write a sentence. So yesterday here, I was discussing with Brahmachari Ben Baba, and he was pointing out that adjectives, for example, you can say flower, beautiful blue flower. So whether you should say blue beautiful flower or beautiful blue flower, that actually, so there are certain inherent rules in grammar in English, whereby it will look very strange or many times wrong if you do not follow those. English also has, for example, the grammar rules related to prepositions. There are a number of prepositions like to, of, from, in, and so many of them. And depending upon the context, you have to use a preposition appropriately. Like, for example, in and into, they look very similar, yet there is a very clear meaning of difference, the difference of meaning. English grammar also has punctuation, where you should put comma, where you should put semicolon, apostrophe s, like those kind of things. Quite important in learning in English grammar. English grammar also has articles, definite article the, indefinite articles a and n, and there are certain rules that how do you use them. Now, these aspects of English grammar simply don't exist in Sanskrit. Sanskrit does not have much of a rules of word orders. As I told you, it's a free word order language. There are no punctuation marks in Sanskrit except the end of the sentence. That's the full stop. Sanskrit does not have these articles, and it does not have prepositions. It actually, the prepositions are built into, as I explained, into the word form itself. So there are, of course, certain rules that which word form to be used where, but there are only very limited. Unlike in English, where are so many prepositions, Sanskrit only has seven cases actually. So those situations have to be covered by those 7 cases. Sanskrit has a lot of emphasis on how to form a word. So in Sanskrit grammar, you must be wondering, then what do we study then? If what do we study then? So I'll just then point out here. I'll just write down basically here. So so we'll see that what are the elements we want to study in Sanskrit grammar. So one thing is sandhi. Sandhi is I would say joining. That's the simple meaning of sandhi. I'll explain to these words to you. What do they mean? Another is it's called Shabda Rupa. It means forms, I would say here, nominal forms. So these are basically the forms of the different words which are classified under nominals. Then another is called Dhatu Rupa. These are verb forms. So different verbs. And I'm just giving you a sort of gist, and I'll explain to you. We would be actually discussing these things in quite a lot of detail. So do not worry if these words do not sound very meaningful to you right now. Then we have something called samasa. These are compound words. Just one thing somebody brought to my notice. I would request all the participants to actually turn off their video. The reason is that these days we have a lot of bandwidth requirements all over the places. And if you turn off the video, it will save some bandwidth which could be used in some other ways. Then another thing which we have is called suffixes. So suffix in Sanskrit is called krut. So I'll just say krut. Pratyaya. Pratyaya is the suffix. Krut is a category of suffix. So these are called nominal suffixes. I would say here first. Then there is another category of suffix. So out of these things, we will be reading the first 3 more extensively in this course. Last 3 are a little bit more advanced topic. I may just give you a simple overview, but we will not be studying in detail. There are some other things in Sanskrit grammar which are also sort of studied in advanced course, and we may not be discussing those. So I'll just give you a gist that what do these things mean on an overview level. and then we'll go into the details of those things. So I'll just create a here, and I'll import this PowerPoint document which we just created. So Sandhi, what does Sandhi mean? Sandhi means when two words come together, sometimes they actually join. And that is Sandhi. So example in English, first I'll give you an English example. So if I, for example, tell you that there is a sentence in English, simple, TED talks. If you say it fast enough, TED talks, TED talks, TED talks, TED talks, the way it would sound like as if I'm pronouncing TED talks. So here there is a Sandhi kind of thing. And Sandhi rule here would be that D, the final D of the first word, if it follows the initial T of the second word, then the first D of the final word changes into T. And TED talks, it becomes TED talks. So it kind of becomes a Sandhi rule in English. In Sanskrit, of course, it is very, very extensive. Many people actually just give up on this point. And I want to tell you that this is something that you really need for reading the scriptures, because they are written in a particular manner, but it is not an essential part of Sanskrit grammar. Why I'm saying it's not essential part, that if somebody you can find, so Sandhi is most of the times is considered optional. It just so is the case in practice, it's almost always done. But Sandhi is considered an optional thing. So if you have Bhagavad Gita, it is a good thing. Otherwise, I'll pull up Bhagavad Gita from our shared drive. And I want to show you some examples from Bhagavad Gita. So you all know this is our shared drive. And here I have put in that Samhita study material. By the way, just I want to point out here, I have put a document for the useful links. And we would keep updating, adding the links to this document. So I just want to show you how does it look like. That's how it looks like, this document. And I'll just increase the view so that you can see it more clearly. So these are the useful links for you. So this is the tool which I said, typing Sanskrit on computer, fonts for Sanskrit. You can download these fonts, and particularly now going forward, if we are doing exercises on computer, I would recommend you to download these two fonts. You can learn Devanagari script, those who are interested. Again, for this course, it is not mandatory. And this is you can find many resources. I'm just basically putting something which is I find useful. But internet is full of different resources, and you can, of course, find your own site if you like. which you might like more. Then learning Sanskrit pronunciation, and many people asked that how can we learn Sanskrit pronunciation. So this is a nice place I found. I just want to show you. And by the way, this site, the Sanskrit Trickshaivism.com, it is a useful site for learning Sanskrit as a whole. And I have been using this site for our course material also. And you can actually take a look at it also. So learning Sanskrit pronunciation, and if you go here, it actually shows how the letter looks like in Devanagari, how is it in transliteration, and then you can play the sound. So you can actually play around with that and have a, and he also gives here the description, that means how the sound is pronounced. So it's a pretty useful thing for those who want to learn the how to pronounce the individual sounds. Then this I have also mentioned here. This site is actually a good site for learning the Sanskrit learning. So the very same site, sanskrittrickshaivism.com, and I have actually asked the permission of the owner of the site that whether we can use their material in our course, their content in our course material, and they said we are happy as long as you acknowledge us. So I'm just writing here that we are using some material from this website in teaching our course and course material preparation. This site, if you want to learn Sanskrit or other things, it's here. So it actually has many Sanskrit related resources. And one of the things I want to actually show you is the scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita. He has done it in a nice manner, and we'll utilize for our study purposes. So in the first chapter, this is the first verse. So the way I like about this site is that you see Devanagari, you see transliteration, and you see the individual word meanings actually. And that's how he is actually giving you the meaning of the verse. So it's a nice website, and because it has both Devanagari and transliteration, we can use it on our class. So one thing here, for example, so I'll just copy it so that I can increase the font a little bit better in Word document. Okay, so many of you would be familiar. The only thing in this site, if you have to remember, these letters are capitalized, which in translation script, they are not supposed to be capitalized. So just make sure that take care of this part. Now you see this word Pandavash Shaiva. Actually, this word consists of 3 different words, and because of Sandhi, it has become one word. So he has given here the splits Pandava, Cha, Eva. So Cha plus Eva becomes Chaiva. These are the rules of Sandhi in Sanskrit. We'll discuss more of these rules later, but the thing is this: if potentially you can actually look at these letters, and there are many resources where they have split the words for you, and you can understand the meaning of the words. But if you want to study the Sanskrit so that you can understand the scriptures, then Sandhi rules are very, very important. because most of the literature actually follows those Sandhi rules. So this is Sandhi. There is a corresponding concept. So Sandhi is joining. So you see the joined words, and we say the corresponding concept is actually Vicheda, means splitting. Vicheda, it means splitting the words. So most of the time we would be actually, if you want to read the scriptures, you would know how to split, but in order to know how to split, you have to know Sandhi rules. And I can tell you that it is much easier to join two words than to actually split two words. To find out how to split them is more challenging than simply if I give you two words and you know the rules, you can join. It is like in mathematics, it is much easier to multiply two numbers to make a big number, but it is quite difficult to actually factor a big number into two numbers. So this is one aspect of Sanskrit grammar. Another aspect of Sanskrit grammar is Shabda Rupa, nominal forms. So what are the nominal forms? I'll discuss these two forms just in a moment. I just want to, because this is what we will discuss more in detail today. So I'll come back to these things. I just want to give you an overview of other aspects of Sanskrit grammar. Samasa, compound words. So compound words would be something like, in English, if I say home, made. So this word neither refers to the home nor just made. It actually refers to a thing which is made at home. So here is the compound word, which actually gives you the meaning different from the component words. In English, we have some other examples like bookshelf. So bookshelf is not shelf made of books. It's actually shelf made for books. The way we understand these words is by just usage, that in the usage, bookshelf means shelf for the books, not made of books. But homemade, we'll say made at home, not made for home. Similarly in Sanskrit, this particular thing, samasa, it is very, very extensive. We have a very good number of rules how to define these compound words. Sometimes they can go very, very long. And it is important to understand these to get to the component word meanings. In this class, our Sanskrit class for beginners, I may cover a little bit about samasa, but for most part, we will not go into the detail. It's a little bit of an advanced topic for our course. I'll show you, however, some examples again in this verse. So if you look at the very first word, dharma kshetre, it is made of two words, dharma and kshetra, but it has become one word. There is a difference in sandhi. So in sandhi, you actually can split the words. So pandavaha, cha, eva, and you can write them separately. In samasa, the compound words, you cannot split and write them separately. They have to be together, even though they have these two component words which have their own independent meaning. Just like homemade in English, you cannot split them and write them separately, and particularly with a gap of other words. Sandhi, it's possible. So sandhi and samasa, that is the difference. Sandhi means they are still two independent words, just happen to come together. Because they happen to come together, certain rules related to sounds has produced a single word. Samasa, on the other hand, is actually a compound word where you cannot split and put them apart. You can split that word to understand the meaning only, but not as in a sentence, like you cannot really put them apart. So it has to be treated as one word. So in this one example, you can see we have Dharmakshetra is one compound, Kurukshetra is another compound. So these are our compounds in this particular verse. Then Krut Pratyaya and Tadhita Pratyaya. So Krut Pratyaya is called first nominal suffixes. So what does it mean is that I told you yesterday, all the words in Sanskrit come from root words, and there are only a finite number of root words. So yesterday I talked about a root word called gum, means to go. From this root, even not just the verb, but all the nouns are also derived from this root. So one of the noun, for example, is gati. Gati means speed, movement. So gati means movement or speed, and it's coming from gum. So how do we arrive from gum to gati? There are a certain set of suffixes which are called krut pratyaya. Pratyaya is the word for suffix in Sanskrit. Krut is the category. So that category of suffixes which give rise to words, nouns, they are called krut pratyaya. We will not go into this. This is considered an advanced topic, and in this course we will not go into this. I just wanted to tell you that such a thing exists, and that's how you derive all the words actually. So gum root, this gum dhatu, might be giving rise to, let's say, thousands of words. Literally, I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say thousands of words. And all of those words actually have rules how those words are derived. Then tadhita pratyaya, that is the second nominal suffixes. That means I use the root word to make the first degree noun, and then from this noun gati, I actually add another set of suffixes. So gati, and I actually can add suffix called man, and it becomes gatiman. Gatiman means a person who is in the motion. So a thing which is in the motion. So this is another noun is created, and that's how you have to see that second nominal suffixes are derived actually. So just this is an overview of the concepts which we discuss, which we read in Sanskrit grammar. As you can see, some of these things would be, you can relate to the grammar in English language, and some of these things would be quite different. It is the first three which we would be studying in this course, Sanskrit course for beginners, in more detail. So if you have questions, please send me in the comments. It's such a huge online class. We have 270 participants actually. And I wish that I could have taken the live feedback to understand that if you have any questions and respond to those. With this kind of class, it's just not possible. I would try to, however, read the comments. I'll take a gap, read the comments, and then come back to you with certain with certain responses. So now we are actually, because this is a lot of information, I understand I'm providing, and you may have a lot of questions. So please do write in the comments, and I'll try to address those things as we go along. So despite Sanskrit having millions of words, all the words can be divided into three categories, which is quite amazing actually to say that. So nominals, they are declined. Declined is a technical term. Actually, that means it's a technical grammar term, not technical Sanskrit term. It's used in the, if you study the grammar of any language, you would come across this word, declensions or decline. That simply means that I take the form of a word and change it. So let me pull up this slide into our whiteboard. Okay. So nominals are declined. So declined simply means that I have a form of the word, there is a basic form of a noun or a word, and that is changed. So like in English, for example, if I say apple, it means one apple. And if I have to say many apples, I would actually add s to it, apples. That becomes many apples. So I don't have to say many apple all the time. I just say apples, and it's understood that it means many apples. That is an example of declension of noun. Again, in Sanskrit, it is far more variety and far more detailed, and you might say complex. We'll discuss those. Nominals cover all the words of the categories of noun, pronoun, adjectives, like these. So they are all called nominals, and they are all declined. And the good thing about it is that we'll see they are declined in a particular manner. So once you understand one type of declensions, you can understand others. Then we have verbs, and verbs are conjugated. Again, this is a technical grammar term that again means the same thing, that there are forms of the verb. So just like in English, if I say go is the basic form of a verb, and then I make from here goes, went, gone. These are all the same verb goes through different forms. These are called conjugations. In Sanskrit, this is considered one of the most complex topics, the conjugation of the verbs. In our course, of course, we are not going to into all that complexities, but at least you will understand that how the verbs are conjugated and how they are used. So there is a base verb, which is basically for all practical purposes our root word, like gum. and then it is conjugated to give us the forms like gachati. Similarly, nominals, we have the base word, say for example Rama, and then we have like forms like Ramaha, Ramau, Ramaha. We'll see those in detail. So we'll have a lot of repetitions. It's very necessary. And if you do not understand something right away, some words sound foreign to you, do not get worried about it. We'll come again and again to these concepts. Plus, you will have the everything which we are discussing, the recording of the class, as well as the printout of this whiteboard. I'll post it. So you would have this in our shared drive. So you would have the opportunity to go back to it and learn from it. And then the third types of words are indeclinables. So these two are the category where you have a base word, either root or noun, and then you change the form of the word to use in a sentence. In this case, indeclinables, it does not undergo any change. And that's why it's called indeclinable. So no conjugation or declension. The word is used as such. Some of the examples of this kind of words are adverbs. Particles. So particles means, like in English we have and. In Sanskrit, that is cha. So cha is a particle. It actually joins two words. So same meaning as n. So these are called particles in Sanskrit, or Sanskrit word for that is nipata. They are called indeclinables. Adverbs are the words which are formed from here. So they are not like, so you still have, these words are still formed from root words, but they attain a certain form, and then after that form does not change further. So for example, these two kind of categories, they change based upon whether we are talking the sentence for plural, singular, or whether we are talking for gender, masculine or feminine. These are the criteria based upon which these forms change, but these forms do not change based upon those criteria. So as I said, like all the words in Sanskrit are derived from root words, dhatu. Some people believe that particles do not come from that, and that is the only thing. So there are only very handful of words, particles, which are actually probably not derived from root words. Otherwise, every single word in Sanskrit is derived from those root words. So with this, I think it's probably in order to take a 5-7 minute break. You have the shared drive. For those 5 minutes, you have these links. Feel free to go to this site, see around. Also, other study material which I have put. I also want to show you that this Bhagavad Gita text, there were a lot of questions related to m dot under or m dot over, so I just changed it so that it is in the same standard as we are having from Sanskrit tool. So now you will find in Bhagavad Gita book, m is with dot under, not with dot over. Then I also put another book of Bhagavad Gita, because this, our original book, it only had the text. This one has text and English translation. Unfortunately, I could not find a book which is not in the copyright. I mean, this one I know is not in the copyright belonging to Gita Press, but otherwise there may be some copyright things. But so this one has the verse and the English translation, but it only has the text in Devanagari. It does not have text in transliteration. So, but its translation is good. So these two together, if you want to use, I would have preferred if we had only one document, but we don't. However, that website which I just shared with you, that does have all the three together. So from that perspective, you can actually go to that website, and there are many other resources on the web which have so many things about Bhagavad Gita. So you could do that. Please do write your questions in this 5-7 minutes break I'll take, and I'll review your comments and see what questions you have, and I'll try to address those questions. Okay, so I'll mute myself, and you please feel free to write your comments and questions. Okay, welcome back. I want to take a few questions. So I did read your comments, and a few things I want to point out here which I made a little bit of mistakes. So it's suffixes. Somehow in my thinking I thought it suffices the plural of suffix. So it's suffix and suffixes. Thank you for pointing it out. Samasa is actually with a long A. So if you look at strictly in Sanskrit way, it will be written as samasa. There were some questions related to what is the difference between samasa and sandhi, and I explained, but I'll again try. So with an example, sandhi happens when two words which are independent come together. So for example, in this example, we have this word Pandava. Actually, it's Pandavaha. The actual word is Pandavaha. And we have Cha plus Eva. These three words actually have become Pandavaschaiva. So this is how Sandhi has become. So there are two operations of Sandhi, as you can see. One is between Cha and Eva. So if I just take this one, then it is actually Chaiva. And another is then Pandava plus so it has become like this. So when we learn Sandhi rules, we basically learn one by one naturally, and then you see how this word actually is combination of these three. Now this Sandhi happens to take place only because these words are one after another. As I told you, the Sanskrit is a free word or language. So I could potentially put these words in a different place, and then there will be no Sandhi. You would actually have different words. So Sandhi just happens. They are independent words. They are free to be kept anywhere in the sentence, of course, depending upon the context. And they only happen, Sandhi only happens because they happen to come together in the particular sentence the way you have formed. So if I form this sentence a little differently, say for example, then these things will not, then this Sandhi will not happen. Samasa, on the other hand, like dharma kshetre, I could put a hyphen there just for the sake of pronunciation, not, but it does that. The hyphen which you see in the book, which we have, I have put it only for the sake of pronunciation, ease of pronunciation. Sanskrit traditionally does not have any, as I told you, any punctuation marks, including hyphen. So in Sanskrit books, you will always find written like this, because we were preparing our Gita book with the view of people who do not know Sanskrit, people in the West. For them, they want to chant. For the ease of chanting, it is many times used. We put the hyphen, but that's all it is for. Hyphen is for the ease of chanting and kind of give you an idea that this is made of two words. Otherwise, it does not have any, you cannot split this word, dharma kshetre. No matter wherever you put in the sentence, the whole thing has to appear together. There is no choice there. So that is the difference. It actually becomes one word for any purposes. In Sandhi, it happens to become one word just contextually, in the sense that because you happen to put them together, you could also make the same sentence and put those words in different places, and then maybe different kind of Sandhis will take place. So I'll tell you an example here. You see Samaveta Yuyutsava. Actually, this word, if you look at here, this word is Samavetaha with the visarga in the end, actually. So this word and Yuyutsavaha, this word, because there is Sandhi rule that when you have visarga here, and we'll discuss those Sandhi rules later, but I just wanted to tell you, because we have a visarga here, it actually drops because it is followed by something else. If I reverse the order of these two words, which is quite permissible in Sanskrit, I can just put this one first and this one here. Then this sandhi will not take place. You will actually have samavetaha. So that is the difference. I cannot do in dharma kshetra, I cannot put dharma and kshetra apart. That is not possible. So that is the one difference of sandhi and samasa. Many people are asking questions related to repository, related to classes will be recorded. So please refer back to your earlier emails. Please refer back to the where the link is given, where the classes are there. Many of the things which we have discussed in the previous classes, please view those recording and the material, and so that you can actually be up to date in this class and do not feel lost because you do not understand the previous concepts. And this is very important actually. So for all of us, please do take time. And one of the reasons why we actually switched the classes to 3 days a week going forward is you will have the time, and also we from our side have the time to look at more your questions and comments and respond to those, where I can actually you can actually watch the video, learn the material, do the practice, and when we start the next class you actually don't feel like lost, because it can build up very quickly. So just be aware of that. Some person said, why can't we have live chat? I would love to have live chat. You can imagine if we have 273 participants right now as they are, live chat may not be very practical solution. So that's why, considering the way this class is right now, I'll see in the future classes we can have limited way of interacting live. Right now I can only take the comments, read them, taking a little break, and then come back to you with your answers. But we'll try to see if we can to have some sort of a live interaction in future class. If you want to make suggestions, please feel free to send us an email regarding that, or in the comments. So these were the few of the things. I cannot say that I answered probably all your questions. Many of the concepts are similar in Indian languages because they are derived from Sanskrit. So you may be familiar, those who know any of the Indian languages like Sandhi, Samasa, those kind of things, they could be familiar, and some of the rules also would be similar. So that is fine. keep in mind one thing, that even though many of the rules may be similar, we are actually focusing on Sanskrit rules here only, and just make sure that you do not mix up with things which you already know, because sometimes they are different also. Now I want to show you today nominal forms actually. So I'll take this document into our whiteboard and see if it works. It doesn't. I have to. Word document. Okay, so we discussed about the nominal forms and verb forms. So this is a snapshot of how the nominal forms look like. So we have taken a noun which called Rama. Its meaning is, it's actually is the holy name of God. Also, it could be the name of a person. It can also have some other meanings, but the main thing is that we have a base word. So this is called base word, Rama. In Sanskrit terminology, just to give you an idea, but you don't have to necessarily remember, it's called Pratipadika. A technical grammar term in Sanskrit grammar. That's the base. And then you have a number of cases. I'll explain to you. And these are the forms. So you see these words: Ramaha, Ramau, Ramaha, Ramam, Ramau, Raman, like this, and up to this. So when you see a sentence, you will never find this word, the base word, being used. You will always find one of these forms, this table, one of the words from this table being used. So this is important. In dictionary, as I told you earlier, the dictionary of Sanskrit does not contain all the words. The reason is this: dictionary will have this word, base word. Sentences will have any of these words. And as you can see, for one, we could have like 24 forms for one word. And they are categorized based upon gender, whether it's masculine. So I'm just telling you the criteria, whether it's masculine, feminine, or neuter. So how many genders in Sanskrit? So 3 genders. So masculine, feminine, and neuter. This word, so from the base word, you have to know whether it is masculine, feminine, or neuter. That will actually change these forms. So this table is actually dependent upon the base word, what is the gender of the word, as well as what is the ending of the word. So we call it akaranta. I already told you, akara means the sound of a. Akara. So it's ending in akara, and that's why it's called akaranta. Akaranta simply means, anta means ending, akaranta means ending in a. So this word, base word Rama, is a masculine word, and it's an akaranta word ending in a, short a. Then this table which you see, it has the cases and the persons. So in Sanskrit there are 3 genders and 3 persons: singular, dual, and plural. And there are 7 cases. So you see I have given the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and these are the Sanskrit words, which simply means first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And these are the case names like nominative, accusative, instrumental, dative, ablative, genitive, locative. And vocative is actually not considered an independent case. It is just considered a variation of the first one, but we list it separately nevertheless. So it is, vocative becomes Rama, Rama, Rama. So we'll discuss these cases in more detail, of course, and then you'll understand what do they mean and how to use them. Again, we'll go back to our example of Bhagavad Gita. So if I take the first word here, dharma kshetre, it is, if I look at my table here, it is very similar to like Rame. This I know as a fact, but from this you kind of can guess that this word dharma kshetre is the 7th case singular. So be and so you will say, so if you have to say what is dharma kshetre, so I have to say it is 7th case singular of the base word dharma kshetra. So what will be the base word here? Base word would be dharma kshetra, which is masculine also and akaranta. So all this information has to be provided. You have to understand in order to arrive at a form. Looks pretty overwhelming right now, but as you practice, it actually becomes very simple and very intuitive also. So when you learn the grammar and you try to understand the meaning, you have to know that this word belongs to which case and which person. So which case and which person will tell you. So in this case, dharma kshetra, because it's locative, means in that location, in so all these cases, they are representative of certain English prepositions, because Sanskrit does not have, for most part, there are certain prepositions, but for most part Sanskrit prepositions are bundled with the word forms. And locative, this particular one, this actually refers to in or on. So you will say dharma kshetre, it's a 7th case singular. The base word is dharma kshetra. What is the meaning of dharma kshetra? So this word you might find in dictionary, because again it's a compound word, may not be available. Maybe you have to see the compound, but that is something which is beyond our course right now, how to split the compounds. But dharma kshetra means simply the field of dharma. So in this case, the meaning would become in the field of dharma in singular. And if you look at this, so here he is saying basically in Kurukshetra or Dharma Kshetra, also known as Dharma Kshetra. Dharma Kshetra means in Dharma Kshetra. He has not said field, he has just given the Dharma Kshetra as the whole name, but actually Kshetra means field. So field of Dharma. Like this, we arrive at meanings. Okay. So this is the how the nominal forms look like. So today's class is a little bit of an overview, and we would actually naturally go into a lot of details. I would also give you an overview of how the verb forms look like. Okay. So again, do not get too overwhelmed by this information. I just have this that will start with the overview, and then we'll delve into the details. So you kind of get a full picture that what is it. So these are verb forms. The table looks smaller, which may make you feel like it's simpler, which is the deception. Verb actually are considered one of the most complex things in Sanskrit. And you will see why. So first, dhatu, it's called dhatu rupa or verb conjugation. Dhatu rupa simply means the verb forms. That's all. We take it a root. Here I have taken the root gum. And again, in the sentences, when you read the literature, you will see these forms. Gacchati, gacchataha, gacchanti. But you will not find these words in dictionary. What you find in dictionary is this. So you understand now that why the grammar is important even to look up a dictionary in Sanskrit. In order for you to know the meaning of gacchati, suppose you come across this word, you have to somehow know what is the root word, and then you can then look up the root word. Just like in nouns, when we have a form, we have which case, which person, what is the gender, and what is the ending. These are the things which are important to identify a noun form. Similarly, in the verb form, I have which person, which is clear, which is the same as in English, but the order is a little bit different here. Third person, second person, first person. We have three persons. As you know, third person is like he, she, they. Second person would be you, and first you and you all. And first person is I and we. And there are three numbers: singular, dual, plural. So Sanskrit has three numbers. Same three numbers are you saw in the noun forms also: singular, dual, plural. So you have three numbers: singular, dual, plural. So and then you see which root it is. So in order to identify a verb form, you will know which person, which number, what is the tense? So this is present tense, which is a, I'll use this word. This is a cryptic word like lut, but it's a present tense. And there is a particular category here. You see parasmaipadi. So in Sanskrit, the words are actually two kinds: parasmaipadi or atmanepadi. We'll discuss. I just want to tell you that this is just an overview. We will go into the details of those later on. So do not worry too much about it right now. So this is all identifying information if you want to identify a verb. So gachati in this case we know it's a present tense. It's a third person. It's a singular. It means gam means to go. So gachati would mean he goes or she goes. In that sense, gachati would be used. So you can kind of figure out the meaning once you understand that which person, which number, what is the meaning of the root. Gachati means he goes or she goes. So how many tenses are there in Sanskrit? There are 10 tenses and moods. We will not cover all of those, of course, in this course, because some of them are beyond the scope of this course. We'll cover some, and we will also see that how many roots we cover, because there are about, as I said, 2000 roots. So even if you take common roots like 500, take 10 tenses and moods, 3 persons, 3 numbers, all of a sudden you see the verb forms actually quite exploding actually. So that's what makes verbs as one of the very, very complex topics in Sanskrit grammar, because they are not all follow the same pattern. They follow different patterns depending upon the type of the verb, depending upon whether it's a parasmaipadi, atmanepadi, which tense it is, which person it is, which number it is. All these things actually change the form of the verb quite significantly. So these are the form of the verbs and these are the form of the nouns. So in the coming classes, we'll discuss more of these in detail. For today, what I want to do is, I want to just again take this verse and identify whether it's nominal form or a verb form or indeclinable. So now you see, if you can see here, you have the meaning of the words here. So Dhritarashtra said, from this meaning at least you can kind of figure out whether it's a verb form or noun form. So first we'll identify the verb forms in this sentence. So one sentence Sanskrit is identified by one verb. So a verb is the basic constituent of a sentence in Sanskrit. One verb means sentence ends there. So in this case, Dhritarashtra said, that is the sentence. So from this you can see Uvacha is a verb. And I'll highlight that in yellow. And nominals will highlight in the different color. So this one yellow. So this is the verb form. Now you look at this sentence. After having met in Kurukshetra, Dharmakshetra, full of desires to fight, O Sanjaya, what did my own sons, along with the reputed sons of Pandu, do? So what did they do? That is this another verb form. So that's why the whole thing is actually one single sentence, this one verse. So this is another verb form, akurvata. The reason I'm taking the Gita examples instead of just giving you simple grammar lessons is that you can understand how, because ultimately one of the reasons why we are having this course is to give you an insight that how can you understand the scriptures? How can you start seeing the patterns in the verses which appear in the scriptures and try to figure out the meanings of those words? And when you see the translation, you can at least have some connection that, oh, this means this actually. So That's one reason why I gave you the overview first and always referring to the Gita verses, so that you do not feel that learning Sanskrit is completely disconnected from what we actually want to use it for. And many courses actually do that. They will just teach you some rules of grammar, and people kind of feel very bewildered, and they do not, when they look at the verse, nothing is very clear. Everything seems like as if whatever I have studied is not applicable to the verses. So that's why I want to again and again come back to Gita verses to give you an idea that even at the very basic level, what we are studying, its application is in Gita. So this one is also a verb form. Remember, there are only 3 types of words in Sanskrit: verb forms, noun forms, and indeclinable. Indeclinable is known as avyaya in Sanskrit. So now we will see the noun forms. Noun forms, so most of the forms would be noun forms. So out of these 3, nominal, I should say nominal because it covers noun, pronoun, adjectives. So he has taken the first word, like here, samavetaha. This is a those who met. So samveta means gathered, people who gathered. And I'll use a different color here. These are for the nominal forms. Kurukshetre, we already saw, it is like Dharmakshetre, nominal form in Kurukshetra. Dharmakshetra, this is also nominal form. Full of desires to fight. So it is still describing the people who are full of desires to fight. So Yuyutsava, that's also nominal form. Sanjaya, oh Sanjaya. So here I am basically talking to a person. So it is again a name of a person whom I am addressing. And this is also nominal form. Kim. Kim is actually means what? And in this case, it's actually indeclinable because it is just a question mark. Mamaka, my own sons. So this is also nominal form. And Pandava, this is also nominal form. So then remaining these 3, Kim, Cha, and Eva, these are all 3 indeclinable forms. So if I have to so these are the 2 different forms. I told you there are 2 different words, Cha and Eva. But so in the pink you see the indeclinable forms, bluish highlight nominal forms, and these are the verbal forms. Kind of gives an idea that how does this thing fit together. And as we study more and more of grammar in the coming days, more and more you will start seeing the connection, that how do these things connect actually. So if you have a Gita copy with you, it's good. We will otherwise pull it on the screen, and I'll refer you to the verses in Gita to always, or our prayer verses, to always get a sense that look, what we are studying, even though at a very basic level, it still has the connection to what we are intending to study. So just a summarization of today. Let's go to our whiteboard. So Sanskrit grammar has these elements: sandhi, which is joining of the words; vichcheda is the corresponding concept which splits the word; we have the nominal forms; we have the verb forms. And these are the 3 concepts which we will discuss in this course for beginners in more detail. Then there are some other concepts which are advanced concepts, samasa. So I'll just put a here, samasa, krut pratyaya, tadhita pratyaya. These are the advanced topics, and we will not be covering in this course. When I take the advanced course for Sanskrit, maybe if that kind of opportunity arises. Uh, uh, we'll see those topics to be discussed at that time. All the words, whether they are nominal forms or whether they are verb forms, they all come from the roots. And there are only very finite number of roots. Somebody asked, is there a list of roots available? Yes, there are. I'll try to find on the internet and post a link in the document. So there are, as I told you, there is a document called Dhatu Kosha, the collection of roots, and there are 2,000 in number. So I'll try to find out a document. I'm sure that they are available on the internet with the meanings, and you can also look at it. Then there are only 3 types of words: nominals. They are nouns, pronouns, and adjectives, and they are declined. Just a technical term. It means its form is changed. Verb, its form is also changed, but that's called conjugation. And then there are third category of words which do not undergo change of form. So here the change of form goes based upon these criteria, whether it is masculine, feminine, whether it is which case, which number. These are the criteria by which the forms undergo change. This criteria does not apply for indeclinable. So no matter whether you are using it for plural or singular, whether you are using for masculine or feminine or neuter, the form of indeclinable does not undergo change. That's what it means, indeclinable. So the nominal forms, we have a base word, and this is kind of the table which has all these cases and 3 numbers. So if you say 8 cases, even though technically we say 7th case because 8th is always vocative, but if you just look at it from the table perspective, it is 8 into 3, 24, or if you say 7, then 7 into 3, 21. They may look a lot, but they are not actually. And once you will start using it, you will see that it is not so difficult. Then the verb conjugations or the forms of the verbs, you have again 3 persons, 3 numbers, and we have 9 in a table. Looks easier, but because of the number of tenses, there are 10, and also there are certain other variations. Verbs actually can get quite complex compared to the nominal forms. So this is pretty practically an overview we covered. We covered the Bhagavad Gita verse in the light of what we studied, and so two things I will request you. One, go back to this talk, lecture if you can. We'll have next class on Friday, so you'll have time of tomorrow. Just try to absorb some concepts. You don't have to go into too much detail of the forms. That will go later in our class. But do copy this thing by hand, this table. Just copy in Devanagari and transliteration, whichever way you feel comfortable. Just copy this table and memorize it actually. And this table also you copy and memorize. The way you memorize it, this in Sanskrit there is a particular way of memorization. So you will say you will say it loudly. So like you will say Ramaha, Ramau, Ramaha, Ramam, Ramau, Raman, Ramena, Ramabhyam, Ramaihi, like this. So you would actually be chanting multiple times. Just put it in a sheet of paper, chant it many times, and slowly it will come to the memory. You don't like mug up. There is a particular way actually. The Sanskrit memorization works much better by chanting multiple times. Just keep chanting multiple times, and it will come to you. It will help you. It will help you to quickly identify the form. So, for example, when you say Dharm Kshetre, you know it is the seventh case singular, then it should be in the meaning of in or on, like this. So do these two things. Go back to this lesson, try to understand, and second, just copy. This is your homework. Copy these two forms, memorize them as much as you can. Just change them multiple times. We will come back to these forms and other forms later. And of course, feel free to send your questions. Tomorrow we will try to look at your questions and comments. I'll address those concerns in the next class. In some cases, if we have time and bandwidth, we'll reply to your questions. Okay, thank you. I'll post these documents on both of these forms onto our shared drive. Practically, basically, I'll post a copy of this whiteboard. Okay, then we'll go to our closing prayers. Okay, our closing prayers. Please chant along with me. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you. We'll have next class on Friday morning, same time, 9 a.m.